Welcome to the Fantasy Football 2013 Draft Order Show. Brought to you by the MFL. Losers not permitted. Fantex, turning losers into winners by cheating. And by Guinness Stout. Good things come to those who wait.
Alright, welcome into the FF13 studio headquarters. I'm Dick Trickle along with defending Super Bowl champion, Coach Bill Waddell. How does that sound? Defending Super Bowl champion.
Sounds great, Dick. I'm ready to go.
Alright, well this is the pre-draft order show. So we're going to determine where everybody's picking in 2013. Where, Coach Bill, as the defending champion, would be your most ideal place to pick?
Well, now that it's a 12-person league, I'd have to say, I'd probably go one or two still. One or two.
One or two? Who are you looking at, the number one or number two overall spot to begin your journey to hopefully repeat?
Well, as everybody knows in this league, Drew Brees is my boy. So I'm looking to get Drew Brees.
Okay, well, what were your thoughts? Let's just get a real quick recap on last season, the 2012 fantasy football season. What do you have to kind of say about the other coaches in the league, how it kind of shaped up? You know, who really kind of needs a kick in the pants?
Well, I'd say any of the guys who end up in the toilet bowl, you guys need to get your stuff together. I don't remember who was in the toilet bowl because I was too busy winning. So I didn't remember where everybody was at. I was too busy winning this guy right here. So any of those guys need help. I'd say everybody in the league needs to get ready to catch up, except for the ones listed here with Tiletown, me, Coach Chris Dixon and his Kool-Aid Crushers, and Brian and his Terror. Other than that, everybody else needs to figure it out and hopefully have a good draft.
Of course, this year, Bill, we have expanded the league. Commissioner Dixon has expanded the league by 2 teams, and that one would be Coach Preston Faye's Bovine Intervention, as well as Coach Matthew Rubley's Lawn Gnome Liberation Front. How do you think this will impact the way the draft will go?
Actually, I think it's going to have a really big impact. 12-man league opens it up for better strategy and more competition. So we'll see. We'll test how all the people, like including myself in the league, will draft this year with a 12-person league instead of just a normal 10. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm excited to see how everybody does. So.
All right, that sounds good. Well, why don't we, without further ado, let's go to the number 12 overall pick for the 2013 season. Coach Bill, why don't you go ahead, pick up one tile, hold it up to the camera so everybody can see it.
All right, nobody better get mad. Here we go. The number 12 overall pick is the Gridiron Terminators.
Coach Jameson Black will be picking number 12 overall this year in 2013. How do you think that will play into his strategy?
Honestly, I don't know. I tried to make it up to him by telling him I drafted my first overall pick, so sorry, J-Mo. I got you bad. My bad, bud.
Well, if you look at his team coming into this season, it looks like his 2013 keeper is already a star running back in C.J. Spiller. So, at this slot, it's very unlikely that he'll have an opportunity to go after an elite quarterback. However, do you think this is a prime opportunity for him to take another elite running back to pair with C.J. Spiller?
Absolutely. He needs to stack his running backs. I just think he should. Don't worry about quarterbacks. They're deep this year. If I was him, I'd be getting a really good running back or a top receiver.
Well, if you look at his draft history over the last 4 years, you can see that last year he took Tom Brady. The year before was Roddy White. In 2010, he took Peyton Manning, and in 2009, he took Andre Johnson. So, taking a star running back in the first round has not been his MA. That has not been what he has done. If you look at it, it looks like quarterback and receiver. However,
Agreed.
at the 12th overall spot, like I said, most likely those elite quarterbacks are off the board, and the most elite wide receiver in Calvin Johnson will be off the board.
Absolutely.
This will be a very interesting spot for Coach Black to pick.
I agree.
All right, moving on to the number 11th pick. Who will be picking 11th overall in the 2013 Fantasy Football Draft?
Well, we'll see it right here. Here we go. I'm gonna take this one. It looks like the number 11th pick will be the annexation of Puerto Rico with Jordan Dewey.
Coach Jordan Dewey will be 11. Now, of course, this is an unfamiliar spot for Coach Jordan Dewey. He has only been in the league now. He's entering his 4th season. His first 2 drafts he had the number 1 overall pick. And then last year, he had another high pick in the draft. This is the first time that Coach Dewey will be picking low in the first round. How do you think this will affect his draft strategy?
Well, I don't know. Jordan's a sneaky kind of guy, Dick. So, I don't know. I think if he's keeping Andrew Luck is what it looks like. I honestly, in my opinion, that's a great keeper. I'd be looking to give him some receivers, some top receivers in the 11th pick. You know, get a good one. If there's a running back available as well, go for that.
Okay. And as you look at Jordan's draft history in the last 4 years, obviously was not in the league in 2009. In 2010, he drafted Chris Johnson. 2011 was Aaron Rodgers. Those were both number 1 overall picks. Last season, he drafted Chris Johnson again. So he kind of seems to have a man crush on the running back from the Tennessee Titans. Do you think he will be looking to go Chris Johnson with the 11th overall pick?
Well, that'll test Jordan's smarts about fantasy. If he wants to take Chris Johnson at the 11th overall pick, you're leaving more for me to pick from, bud. So if you want to do it, do it. I don't think it's a good idea personally. He needs to let go of his man crush, kind of give him some room, give him some time apart. But that's what needs to happen.
Well,
Yeah.
it's almost strange that Jordan Dewey got the 11th overall pick because it was reported in the news when people were asking him about the new expansion team. He said, I can guarantee whoever's drafting 11th and 12th will not make the playoffs. How do you think that this is going to affect his draft plans? Do you think he will try to trade his pick up?
I think he'll try to trade his pick as best he can, especially after what you just said. He reported Dick. That's a pretty big statement from him. So him being the 11th pick, well, buddy, you're going to have to either trade or you're stuck not making the playoffs, buddy. I'm sorry.
All right, now time to move on in this 2013 draft order show. Coach Bill, why don't you go ahead and show us who's going to be drafting number 10 overall?
Number 10. All right, number 10 on the list is Coach Sean Glaze and his G Unit.
Coach Sean Glaze. Now this is an interesting spot for Coach Glaze this year in 2013 because he already has a quarterback keeper in Russell Wilson. So, and if you've looked at his draft history over the past 4 years, you'll see in 2012 he took Drew Brees. 2011 he went with an elite wide receiver in Calvin Johnson. In the 2 previous years, both in 2009 and 2010, he drafted a quarterback in Tony Romo. This year, he doesn't necessarily need a quarterback. So this may be the most ideal position for Coach Glaze.
It could be. I actually agree. I think Coach Glaze could go grab an elite running back that'll be on the board. You can go grab an elite receiver, these top 3 receivers. Be a good position for him in general, dude. I believe that he's going to be very successful at this position.
Okay, well, let's continue to roll. Let's go to the number 9 overall spot.
Number 9 is going to be Coach Fayez and his bovine intervention.
Now, this is one of the first 2 rookies that's in the league, drafting at number 9. So it's a later pick. And now, the way it worked for the rookies, they got to keep some players that were off the top of the heap, left over from all the other keepers. Now, at the time of us filming this, he has not officially declared his keeper. However, it's projected that he will probably keep a player at the wide receiver position. Now, how do you think this is going to impact him at the 9th overall slot?
Well, it's going to sadden him, number one, because he's not going to get his boy Aaron Rodgers. There's no way that's going to happen. I'm sorry there, Preston. But it just depends on how he drafts. But if he has a projected wide receiver, who is it again? I believe it's Anquan Bolden, I think.
Either
That's what I looked at.
Or it's looking like another really good option is Danny Amendola is out there.
Well, out of those guys, I mean, if he keeps either of those two, both of them are okay. Not solid by any means, but they're okay. I think it's a good spot for him to kind of decide if he wants a top running back or if he's going to go quarterback in the first round. I'm not for sure.
This is true. I mean, the scouting reports, a lot of coaches don't know what Coach Fayes or Coach Rubley, the two new rookie coaches, or how they're going to draft, because there's not really a draft history for them. However, there are scouting reports on both of these guys that league scouts for every team have obtained based on their performance as coaches in other junior league, JV leagues, if you will. Coach Preston Fayes in the past has always looked quarterback that first round. This may be a hindrance to him at the number 9 overall position.
Yeah, could be, but once again, if he's going to play in this league, he's got to learn to compete, and this will be a good experience for him at a late pick.
All right. Well, now that we know where one of the rookies is drafting, let's go ahead and move on to the number 8 overall position in the 2013 draft.
All right, number 8 is Coach Dave Venable and his Midnight Rockers.
The Midnight Rockers are now on the clock for the number 8 overall position in the league. Now, their keeper, projected keeper, mind you, because Dave Venable has not officially yet declared his keeper. However, it's almost a certainty he'll be keeping Marquez Colston at the wide receiver position. Now, I know that Venable going into this draft was probably hoping that his Midnight Rockers were picking really near the top. Because of that Colston, you would like to have tried to get an elite quarterback like Drew Brees.
Right.
However, this will not be an option at the number 8 position.
I agree.
If you look at his draft history really quick, in the past, last year he drafted Maurice Jones-Drew, which was controversial. He was very injured at the time. The year before, he drafted another running back in Adrian Peterson. The year before that, 2010, was Darren McFadden at the running back position, and in 2009, again, running back position with LaShawn McCoy. So the draft history for Coach Dave Venable has always said running back.
Agreed.
Do you think that the 8th position is a good spot to get an elite runner?
I believe for Coach Venable it is. I think that he could go get somebody like a Marshawn Lynch, who's very good. He could get his boy Trent Richardson. I know that he's personally likes Trent Richardson. I know he loved him last year. That'd be a good spot for him, honestly, to go grab a really good running back for his team.
I agree.
That'd be great.
I mean, in all of our data and our analysis and how we feel the first round should go, that's basically the end of the first round. You're looking at guys like Doug Martin, Marshawn Lynch, Trent Richardson, LaShawn McCoy, Chris Johnson. That's where there's going to be a string.
Yeah.
That's where we feel there's going to be a string of running backs being taken.
Absolutely.
So that would fit Dave Venable's MA to go after a running back like that.
That would be good for him.
All right. Now, we can move on to the number 7 overall position and who will be picking 7th in the 2013 fantasy football draft.
All right, number 7. Here we go. We're going to take a shot. It is going to be Coach Brian Stevens and his Chupacabra Terror.
All right. So, Brian Stevens was an interesting one. He won his division last year.
Yeah.
Division you were in.
Yes.
Coach Bill
absolutely.
Waddell.
Absolutely.
His keeper, he declared, was Andy Dalton.
Great.
I mean, how do you feel about Andy Dalton this year?
You know what? I personally think the Bengals are going to win that division myself. I believe Andy Dalton's going to lead the way. But I wouldn't bank on him for a starting quarterback for my team. He'd be a great backup, especially if the quarterback he drafted got hurt. That's an excellent backup to have. He's good 23 to 24 points a week kind of quarterback. It's average. He's a little bit above, in the average, he's between the average and the above average for me. So I think that that's a great keeper, but I would not start him.
I agree with that. And last year, in large part, the Chupacabra Terror and their estranged owner, their success can be attributed to Peyton Manning. I mean, he drafted Peyton Manning in the second round last year. People were worried about his neck injury, how that was going to affect his play. This year, however, it's almost a certainty that guys like Breeze and Rodgers, Manning, Brady, these guys are going to come off the board probably in the top few picks. So how do you think this is going to affect you, Tara? Do you think that one of those elite quarterbacks can fall to the number 7 position, or should Brian start making other plans this year at the signal caller position?
Well, like you and I discussed earlier, Dick, quarterbacks are very deep this year. So I'd be surprised that, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get Peyton Manning. I know that's his boy. That attributed to his team last year. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm saying it could. Brian could get lucky and get Peyton Manning or an Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady at that number 7 position. I mean, it's very possible if that's where the route Brian wants to go and taking a quarterback in that round, feel free to do it. I mean, if that elite guy is there, like a Brady or a Ryan or anything like that. But however, I'd look and see, since you already have Andy Dalton, I would try to go quarterback, get a better quarterback if you can, or you could possibly try his chances to move, trade up to get a little bit better pick for him. But that's what I think, Dick.
Okay, well, and that's a good point, because Tom Brady is a guy that in mock drafts has been sliding down a little bit this year because he's lost his receivers. Now, if you look at Brian's draft history here, last year he went with Arian Foster. The year before, you're looking at LaShawn McCoy, another running back. 2010, he went Andre Johnson. That year he went heavy on wide receivers. He tried to change his strategy. The year before that was running back Chris Johnson. Now, if you're seeing a trend here, that's at 3 out of 4 years he's drafting running back. This is going to be an interesting spot for Coach Brian Stevens, because this is right at the time where that run on those elite runners will probably be starting, and it'll be his choice. What does he want to do there, the number 7 position? Now, we're halfway through the picks in the 2013 Fantasy Football Draft. Guys, still out there. You still have Coach Chris Dixon, you still have defending Super Bowl champion Bill Waddell, you have Commissioner Mike Dixon. You have a lot of great teams still out there able to pick. When we return, we're going to find out the top part of the draft order. Top part.
Are you tired of losing at fantasy football? Do you ever wonder why none of your draft picks work out? Are your players always getting injured? Having trouble keeping up with the opposition? Well, buck up, fantasy football guy. Fantex is here to naturally enhance your ability to play with the pros.
I use Fantex to win a Super Bowl with a losing record.
Fantex is designed to stimulate the football cortex and increase every fantasy player's game. It's easy. Just take one pill before kickoff on game day and watch the magic happen.
Last year, I really thought I had a large enough football cortex, but when it was out in the open, amongst all the others, I discovered it was small and shriveled. This off-season, I've been using Fantex, and I've definitely felt my football cortex swell to maximum size.
Fantex is not for everyone, including those who have apathetic disorders. Side effects of Fantex include carotid stenosis, cerebral edema, anal leakage, narcissistic personality disorder, and hemi-neglect. Fantex has not been approved by the FDA and should be taken once a week with a large beer and plenty of fantasy football research, including, but not limited to, magazines, websites, and viewing of actual NFL games. Last year's Super Bowl champion, Joe Frederick, learned firsthand what Fantex can do.
2 years ago, my fantasy football career was was in the toilet. Fantex really did change my life and put me back on top.
And how has point production increased?
So call now to get your fantasy football game on and become a champion just like Joe.
Fantex normally costs $60, but if you call now, it's only $19.95, a $40 savings. But wait! We'll throw in an extra bottle of Fantex for free if you call within the next 10 seconds.
You won't regret it. I've got a champion for life because of Fantex.
Welcome back to the 2013 Draft Order Show here on FFN. Alright, still got guys, Coach Joe Fredericks out there. One of the rookies, Coach Matt Rubley's team, still yet to emerge in this draft order.
Those lawn gnomes.
Those lawn gnomes, they're still out there. How excited are you, Bill, as the defending Super Bowl champion, that the Skull Crushers have not been selected in the bottom half of the draft order?
I'm actually excited about it. I was hoping that I wouldn't get drafted at the bottom of the order. So I'm kind of liking the way it's looking so far. It's going to be good.
All right, well, let's not wait any longer. Spence is killing me. So let's get on to the number 6 overall position this year in the 2013 Fantasy Football Draft.
The number 6 pick is going to go to Coach Mike Dixon and his Titletown Trophy Hawks.
So the commissioner looking at drafting in the number 6 position this season. How do you think he's going to feel about that?
You know, honestly, I'm sure it's not what he wanted, but I know the rest of the league is going to love it because they don't like when Coach Dixon gets the number 1 overall pick. Nobody does. Everybody doesn't like that, especially since he'd be getting it for the second year in a row if he did, because last year in his own league, he did get the number 1 overall pick. So honestly, I don't know how much he's going to like it, or he could like it. I don't know. Maybe it's kind of that spot he was hoping for, so he can kind of get a Megatron or, a top running back at that spot. Or possibly if the quarterbacks fall far enough, he'd be getting the lead one.
Well, that's interesting. It's a good point to bring up. You look at his draft history. The commissioner last year had the number 1 overall pick when Aaron Rodgers with it. The 2010, 2011, 2009, all 3 the previous years drafted Tom Brady at that spot. So last year kind of let Brady slip off to you somehow through trades and everything else. He might be regretting that decision. Do you think he's still going to be looking for a signal caller there with a running back already the keeper position in Stevan Ridley?
Well, he's got a great keeper pick in Stevan Ridley, honestly. In that system, the way it's flawed right now with the receivers being gone for Coach Brady, I think Stevan's going to be a top running back for Coach Dixon. That's a great keeper pick as well. Honestly, I don't know where Coach Mike will go with that, if he decides to keep that or if he decides to trade it. I have some ideas of guys who he would want at that position, but I don't know exactly what he'd take. So I'm honestly flabbergasted. I think that he's going to try to move up in the lineup a little bit, kind of get more of his elite style, because I know he really loves Drew Brees this year, and I don't know if anybody's going to give him that 1 or 2 overall pick, but we'll see where it goes. Yeah, I don't know. Coach Mike is cunning, remember that.
Let's move on in this year's draft show to the number 5 position. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. We're to number 5, Coach Bill Waddell. Let's see who it is.
The number 5 pick in this draft this year will be Coach Joe Frederick and his Quack Attack.
The Quack Attack is an interesting team. Every year they seem to be a formidable opponent. This year they got a keeper in Randall Cobb at the wide receiver position. How do you think Joe Frederick is going to like the number 5 pick? What do you think he's going to be looking for in this position?
Honestly, if people are doing the draft the way it should be, like I said, like we talked about before, Dick, quarterbacks are very, very deep this year. So I'd be surprised if somebody didn't try to take an elite running back at this kind of position. But I'm kind of thinking that Coach Joe is going to probably hope that, somebody goes and takes a couple good running backs like an Arian Foster, an Adrian Peterson, and hopefully especially since he has Randall Cobb, he'll kind of hope that Aaron Rodgers might slip to that position.
That's true. That is true. And that would be unusual for Coach Joe Frederick.
True.
Considering you look at his draft history, last year went Ray Rice. Year before, he went Arian Foster. Of course, in 2010, that was his retired season. He took a year off from the league. He had a lot of personal stuff going on. 2009, he took Matt Forte, another running back. Now, Coach Joe Frederick is a big believer in the traditional draft 2 really good running backs off the top of that, but I don't think he could even resist taking Aaron Rodgers if he fell to the 5th spot.
Agree. I think that with him keeping Randall Cobb, I mean, as far as I know, he's still the number 1 receiver there currently because Jordy Nelson and James Jones is more of that kind of just drop it off to the end zone kind of guy. I don't know who's the number 1 starter there, but I believe it is Randall Cobb. And if he has that hookup with Aaron Rodgers, my goodness, his team's going to be pretty nasty.
Very true, Coach Bill. Now, we're starting to get into the very, very top picks. What do you think as far as, is it a curse or a treasure to get one of the top picks in a 12-person league? Remember, we had the expansion teams this year.
Yes. Well, honestly, it could be either way. I agree. I think that the 12, expanding the league to 12 people could be a treasure, or I think it depends on the coach drafting at that spot. It could be a treasure for one coach. It could be an absolute trash heap for another coach and end up being in that damn toilet bowl.
That's true.
I believe that with all the guys left, such as myself, Coach Dixon, Coach Rubley, and I believe, who is the last one I think we got there?
The last one that we have not said yet. We have Coach Chris Dixon, we have Coach Matt Rubley, we have Coach Jake Tyson still out there, and his strike team.
That's right, the strike team. That's right. That'll be interesting to see who goes in these next top 4 picks.
All right, well, let's move on to number 4 overall in this year's 2013 Fantasy Football Draft.
All right, the number 4 overall pick this year for Mike's Fantasy Football League will be Coach Jake Tyson and his strike team.
So, speaking of the devil, we just spoke about Coach Jake Tyson and his strike team still being out there. Nobody cares about that. We care about Jake Tyson right now and talking about him at the number 4 position. All right. Now, Coach Jake Tyson traditionally hasn't had a whole lot of top picks. This year, his projected keepers of the tight end position and Kyle Rudolph. And in the past, he's, you can see in his draft history, you look at last year, 2012, Calvin Johnson was the pick there, which makes sense. I mean, that's one of Jake Tyson's guys. In 2011, he went Matthew Stafford in the first round. Another elite passer. Right. In 2010, he went Adrian Peterson at the running back position. And in 2009 was Kurt Warner, the quarterback position, a long time ago when Kurt Warner was an elite guy. Right. So Jake's kind of been all over the board. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs. It's very kind of unpredictable to know what Coach Tyson's going to do. However, what do you feel he's going to do with the 4th overall pick? Is that too early to go Megatron?
Honestly, with Coach Jake, I wouldn't be surprised if he does go Megatron right there. I would not be surprised. And if one of my favorite players was at that spot and he's elite as it is, I would probably take it. Especially with how quarterbacks are deep this year, running backs aren't so much, but that's kind of a traditional Coach Tyson style. He loves his boy Megatron, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
Okay, well, with talking with Calvin Johnson, we don't even know if he's on Coach Jake Tyson's radar this year or how he feels about Matthew Stafford. He's a guy that's going under the radar. He's been passing for over 5,000 yards the last 2 seasons. But Calvin Johnson in all the mock drafts is getting picked around 7, 8 in the draft order and all the mock drafts across this nation. So do you think Jake should, if he's really looking, Calvin Johnson, should he slide back and make a trade in the draft order? Or do you think he should stay up top and take a guy at the top of the draft?
You know what? Like I said, that's up to Coach Tyson. And if he really, really wants Calvin Johnson, take him at the 4th pick. That's not a bad idea. He's elite like that. But myself personally, I would probably try to slide back a little bit. You know, if that's really who you want, Coach Tyson, then I'd slip back a little bit, maybe trade a pick with like a 5 or a 6 guy. Try to get at least 5 or 6 spot. Let that pick slide on back a little bit and give another person another chance who wants a different guy if you're really looking to get Calvin Johnson. Unless, like Dick said, you might be wanting an elite quarterback this year. We don't know, especially in that top position. Or if you want Adrian Peterson, you know, that's one of the best. That's the top running back in the league. So we'll see how you do, Jake. See what you pick.
All right, let's be honest here, Coach Bill Waddell. Your team is still out there. Yeah. There's only 3 spots left.
I agree.
Where would you like to pick in those 3? Number 1, number 2, or would you like number 3 in the draft order?
Well, this year, I'm kind of hoping to get, honestly, a 1 or a 2. The 3 won't be bad because I know who I would personally take at the number 3. I've already set that in motion for myself, who I would take 1, 2, and 3, or for that matter. So I'm excited. We'll see what we get.
All right. It's big time, baby. Let's get into the top 3 of this year's 2013 Fantasy Football Draft. At the number 3 spot, guaranteed an elite player, no matter who they pick. Let's see who
the
it
number
is.
3 spot is going to go to Coach Matt Rubley and his Lawn Gnomes.
All right, the other rookie is going to get a really high draft pick. In years past, we've seen rookies like Brian Stevens and Coach Jordan Dewing when they first started the league. They got higher picks. And they struggle with those picks. They ended up picking players that got hurt, that didn't get the production they thought they were going to get because they just simply drafted out of a magazine. Do you think Coach Rubley will fall into the same trap, or do you think he has the knowledge to handle a top 3 pick?
Well, traditionally in Coach Dixon's league, you know, rookies who get really high picks, including myself about 3 or 4 years ago, when I got a high pick, I think I got about a number 3 pick. Back in 2009 when I first started playing, I made some mistakes, honestly, and I think that history shows itself in Coach Dixon's league and repeats itself that we'll see if a rookie can handle it. Right now I'm banking on the fact that history does repeat itself, so I don't know if Coach Rubley will either roll over and get hurt and his team be done, or that could be beneficial. He could break this curse. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, and again, being the other rookie, there's no previous draft history for him. The scouting reports on him from other leagues, just the same as Coach Fayette, was that he always goes wide receiver heavy. Coach Rubley's a guy that believes, especially in a PPR league like this one, wide receivers is the key. That's been his MA. Do you think he's gonna go ahead with the Calvin Johnson here, or do you think he will slide back in the draft order to try and get a Calvin Johnson?
Well, I don't know who his keeper is. Like I said, he's still got all those things he can choose from, all those guys he can choose from. But honestly, if it was me, if he wants to be smart about succeeding in this league with a high pick like that, I'd be going quarterback. Especially with those top 3, as in Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, and of course, who is it? I forgot who the dang best. Drew Brees. There we go. My boy Drew Brees. That's my fault. I almost spaced that. I don't know why. I just had that kind of moment. But I don't think it'd be a bad idea to go get a top quarterback, especially in Coach Dixon's league where quarterbacks are valued very high. So I think that if he's smart and wants to break that rookie curse, he should probably go big time quarterback.
All right, we are down to the last 2 picks. Now the next pick, Coach Bill Waddell picks up from these last 2 tiles over here, will not only determine who's drafting second, but it will also determine who has the first overall pick this year in fantasy football. Now, stay tuned. We're going to be right back to determine who's at the very top of this year's 2013 fantasy football draft.
Sounds good, Dick.
So what else have you been working on?
Well, I've come up with this idea where you take all the players in the NFL and you write their names down in little books.
Write the names down?
That would be your team, and you would compete against others in what I call fantasy football.
A fantasy football league? Brilliant! Brilliant!
Welcome back to the 2013 Draft Order Show. here on FFN. Now, down to the last two picks. Coach Bill, how badly are you hoping it's you at the number 1?
I'm hoping it's me at the number 1. I really am, because that'll be the second year in a row that somebody who won this championship got to pick number 1. It's kind of crazy, honestly. A lot of people are skeptical out there, including a couple coaches that I know who were skeptical of it last year. But sometimes that's just the way it goes, and that's just the way you pick them. I'd be excited if I got number 1. Then I get my boy. I love Drew Brees, and of course I've taken him away from Coach Venable and his lovely group of rockers who do play good music. But maybe he can just give me Marcus Colston, because that's my boy too. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited.
All right, there it is. The number 2 overall pick this year in fantasy football will be.
The number 2 will be Coach Chris Dixon and his Kool-Aid Crushers.
So, Coach Chris Dixon comes into this year. This is an interesting spot for Coach Chris Dixon. Almost a difficult spot for Coach Chris Dixon, because it's no secret how big of a fan he is. The quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, that's out there. However, his 2013 keeper right now is Robert Griffin III. How do you think Chris handles this situation? Having the option, most likely, if you stay true to your word, going with Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers will be sitting on the board at number 2 when Coach Chris Dixon is on the clock.
Well, we all know that everybody I think around the league knows that Coach Dixon is pretty much in love with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he confessed to some people some expletive stuff that he loves Aaron Rodgers, literally, quite literally. So having Robert Griffin III, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to slide down a little bit. At least I would in that position, especially if I got a great quarterback in Robert Griffin III. Injuries pending, wouldn't be a bad idea, because that's his boy, Aaron Rodgers. So I could still see Chris drafting him because he loves Aaron Rodgers so much, Dick. But we'll see how it is. We'll see what he does. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to slide down a little bit.
Okay. Well, let's look at his draft history really quick. Last year, he went ahead and drafted tight end Jimmy Graham with his first overall pick. He changed it up. That was very unusual for Coach Chris Dixon. He's never done that in his whole tenure in this league. In 2011, of course, he drafted Michael Vick in the first round, which was a bust for him. The previous season, of course, was his guy, Aaron Rodgers, he drafted. And then the year before that, 2009, was Ray Rice. Now, Coach Chris Dixon has typically been toward the bottom of the draft order in the last several years. I mean, last year was the highest he had, or 6 or 7 in the draft order, and he took Jimmy Graham. That's the highest Coach Chris Dixon has been in several years. Now he gets the number 2 overall pick. He's going to get the player he's going to want to get.
Absolutely. And if that's what Chris wants, then I think he should go for it. I think it's kind of funny how last year Chris and I were right next to each other and right next to each other again, But we'll see how it goes. I'm glad he's going to be in a different division, so I continue beating him every year. So we'll see what he does. I'm kind of curious to see if he's going to take Aaron Rodgers, his favorite person in the world, or he's going to actually try to slide that.
Well, let's go ahead and hold your tile up. This is the number 1 pick in this year's 2013 Fantasy Football Draft. Go ahead and announce it, Coach Bill Waddell.
Me, myself, and I's Coach Waddell's the Notch It Lawn Skull Crushers, TSC.
That will be your number 1 pick this year in fantasy football. Now, if you go ahead, we're going to look at Coach Bill Waddell's draft history. Last year, LaShawn McCoy. 2011, Drew Brees. 2010, Calvin Johnson. 2009, Maurice Jones-Drew. So he's been all over the board, running backs and wide receiver and quarterback. However, we do know, coming into this draft, how important Drew Brees is to this coach.
He's my savior. I love that guy, especially in a system where Coach Sean Payton's getting back in there. That's going to be really impactful for Drew Brees. Last year, he still was one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy, if not the best. But I feel with Coach Payton back in there, him and Coach Payton just connect beyond belief. So now that he's back, I think he's going to be fired up. Especially he's going to be, again, one of the top quarterback in the league. And there's no doubt in my mind that I will be picking Drew Brees first overall.
Well, there you have it. Chris, you can essentially put yourself on the clock.
Now, one last bit before we get going on this draft order special show. One thing that is determined by draft order, of course, is the divisions. Now, we now know the divisions in pending a trade. If somebody trades, these could shift. Keep that in mind. Now, but as they stand, the AFC Lamar Hunt division right now will be Coach Jamison Black, Coach Sean Glaze, Coach Dave Venable, Coach Mike Dixon, Coach Jake Tyson, and Coach Chris Dixon. Now, what's standing out to you, Coach Bill, with this division?
Well, honestly, this division is going to be pretty tough. I mean, I know the Dixon, or both the Dixon brothers as coaches. It's always competitive with them, and I'm anxious to see what as good as pick as Coach Chris Dixon got. I'm anxious to see, if he does take an Aaron Rodgers and try to take out some good elite quarterbacks for Coach Mike Dixon, because I know Coach Mike loves to do his quarterbacks. But like I said, at Coach Mike's position, he could go, a Tom Brady with this boy. He's drafted him so much, but it's going to be interesting. And Coach Glaze at his pick, sitting at the 10th overall, you never know. He may have somebody slide down there that's elite, and he could just take off with it. Coach Venable's sitting very good too. I wouldn't be surprised he goes heavy on running back there. I think every coach has got a shot, and you said Coach Jamo was in that division too?
Yes, which is
Coach Jamison Black. I'm very anxious to see, but most importantly in that league, how Coach Jamison Black and how Coach Sean Glaze do. Because the other guys, Coach Venable's always somebody who people hate to go against. He's just plagued with rookies, and these rookies take off. So and Coach Dixon and Coach Mike and Coach Chris are always tough to play. So it's going to be an interesting division, I think.
You got great rivalries going on in this division. Of course, probably the league's most storied rivalry is Coach Mike Dixon and Coach Jamison Black.
Absolutely.
And this year, they only played each other one time last year. They were in opposite divisions. Of course, they didn't see each other in the Super Bowl, so they only played one time. This year, there's a potential. They'll play each other at least twice.
Absolutely.
Now, there's a potential for 3 times if Jamison makes the playoffs and they meet each other.
Right.
Do you think this will be good for renewing this rivalry?
I think it's going to be awesome for them to renew the rivalry, especially since they're in the same division and they're going to be playing each other again. And it's always a rivalry between Coach Mike and his brother Coach Chris too. Right. That whole division is going to be interesting and so fun for rivalry. And I can't wait to see what happens. I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how everybody gets.
Of course, this means that the NFC Bill Walsh division will have Jordan Dewey, Coach Jordan, Coach Preston Fayes, one of the rookies, paired with the other rookie, Coach Matt Rubley will also be in that division. You have Coach Brian Stevens, and then you have Coach Joe Frederick, and then of course yourself, Coach Bill Waddell. Now, how much are you salivating right now, the fact that you have both the rookies in your division, Coach Bill?
I'm salivating and drooling all over the place. I can't wait to whoop up on all these little puppies. I swear to goodness, man. I tell you that this is a relief hearing that, well, number one, that Coach Mike Dixon's not in my division again, so maybe we could have a rematch and I could beat him again. That'd be awesome. But at the same time, I'm excited. I've always had struggles with Coach Joe. He's just that guy who every year just seems out of those couple times I play him, he just always seems to have my number. And this year I get to play him multiple times, so I'm excited to see where that goes. Me and Coach Joe, he's always had my number, and I think it's time to start a rivalry where we can go back and forth a little bit.
I agree, and it certainly appears right now after determining the draft order, the odds-on favorite for each division, especially with where the picks are and considering all these people I'm about to say have top picks. These have to be the favorites in each division to win it. You're looking at yourself, you're looking at Joe.
I mean, both have very high picks. They're both in the NFC. They're both smart coaches. Now, in the AFC, you have to look at Coach Chris Dixon. You have to look at Coach Mike Dixon as the odds-on favorite. Because while Jameson is a very, very smart coach, he is picking 12th overall, which means he may not get those elite players. So you got to look at the favorites, Mike and Chris in the AFC, and probably yourself and Joe in the NFC.
Absolutely.
With the way the picks came out.
Line up. Yeah.
Well, let's remember the timeline here. Well, you have 1 week from today, which is Friday, when this video aired, to trade your pick if you're going to trade your pick with another player. How that works, if you trade your pick, you're trading all your picks for that pick. So suppose the number 7, Brian, wants to trade with the number 8, Venable. They've switched completely. They switch divisions, they switch everything. After 1 week, so 1 week before the draft, that Friday before the draft, it locks. The draft order is set. You cannot trade anymore. It's set. So you have 1 week. Get your trades done if you're going to do it. If not, we look forward to the 2013 fantasy football season in 2 weeks. Coach Bill Waddell, I want to thank you on behalf right here. I'm Dick Trickle with Coach defending champion, Coach Bill Waddell. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed our analysis of the 2013 draft order on this special FF13 presentation. Until next time, keep it classy, folks.
Keep it classy, Dave.